After the tragedy, the families of the lost astronauts came together and wanted to do something in memorial for their families.
Well, nobody believed I could do it. They said, "This has never been done. You're just a teacher," and I said, "Watch me." Once we had built the first center, President Bush said, "We need more of these centers."
It just immediately was clear to me that Dayton, Ohio, birthplace of aviation, had to have a center. And along I came.
When students come to the center, they take on the role of mission controllers and astronauts and engineers.
It's taking you out of your everyday environment and putting you in the environment of flight.
A number of educators have come back and said that they were inspired to be a teacher. And it began with Krista McAuliffe, but then it continued when they went to a Challenger Learning Center.
The community response was overwhelmingly positive.
Teachers from around the Miami Valley are preparing for the mission of a lifetime.
Imagine as a student being able to command your very own space lab.
We have main engine start.
Dreams have a way of manifesting themselves.
3.
Ideas have a way of coming into this world.
2.
We created all these grand things that you can find at a Challenger Center now. And right here in Dayton,
1.
is a prime example of what can be done.
Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Control.
Roger, roll, Challenger.
After the tragedy, the families of the lost astronauts came together and wanted to do something in memorial for their families.
Well, nobody believed I could do it. They said, "This has never been done. You're just a teacher," and I said, "Watch me." Once we had built the first center, President Bush said, "We need more of these centers."
It just immediately was clear to me that Dayton, Ohio, birthplace of aviation, had to have a center. And along I came.
When students come to the center, they take on the role of mission controllers and astronauts and engineers.
It's taking you out of your everyday environment and putting you in the environment of flight.
A number of educators have come back and said that they were inspired to be a teacher. And it began with Krista McAuliffe, but then it continued when they went to a Challenger Learning Center.
The community response was overwhelmingly positive.
Teachers from around the Miami Valley are preparing for the mission of a lifetime.
Imagine as a student being able to command your very own space lab.
We have main engine start.
Dreams have a way of manifesting themselves.
3.
Ideas have a way of coming into After the tragedy, the families of the lost astronauts came together and wanted to do something in memorial for their families.
Well, nobody believed I could do it. They said, this has never been done. You're just a teacher, you know, and I said, watch me. Once we had built the first center, President Bush said, we need more of these centers.
It just immediately was clear to me that Dayton, Ohio, birthplace of aviation, had to have a center. And along I came.
When students come to the center, they take on the role of mission controllers and astronauts and engineers.
It's taking you out of your everyday environment and putting you in the environment of flight.
A number of educators have come back and said that they were inspired to be a teacher. And it began with Krista McAuliffe, but then it continued when they went to a Challenger Learning Center.
The community response was overwhelmingly positive.
Teachers from around the Miami Valley are preparing for the mission of a lifetime.
Imagine as a student being able to command your very own space lab.
We have main engine start.
Dreams have a way of manifesting themselves.
3,
Ideas have a way of coming into this world.
2,
We created all these grand things that you can find at a Challenger Center now. And right here in Dayton.
Nah, you could have started.
Ready to go?
Yeah, I'm in.
All right. Calling to order Dayton Public School Board special meeting at 4 p.m. Roll call. 5 p.m., sorry. 5 p.m. Roll call.
President Bailey,
Here.
Dr. Goodwin,
Here.
Mr. Lacey,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Present.
Mr. Walker,
Here.
Ms. Garrison,
Present.
7 present.
All right. Dr. Lawrence.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bailey. I would like to ask the board to vote on option 1. If you could show it on the screen for me, Sharice.
Just told I have the wrong version, so I need a second for the new one to come through.
Is it the same as we had at the retreat?
Yes. That's
So
us.
moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Yes.
Yep. Oh, we forgot to do presentation.
Do we need to refresh?
It's not going to be on board document, you just need the screens on.
Okay. Questions or concerns?
I just want to put a comment out. I do appreciate the video that came out. It was long. It was long. 9 minutes is a long time to look at a video on the internet. So I've already talked to you guys at our committee meeting about kind of cutting it up so people can actually see that. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My team is in the process of doing that right now.
Anything else? All right.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Will.
No, you can go ahead.
I don't have any.
Okay, so we are just voting on the option 1 as a whole, Dr. Lawrence?
Yes. Yes, indeed, Mr. Smith.
Is there a possibility to vote on things separately through here, but do we just want to vote on the whole thing? Up to the will of the board?
You mean option 1, 2, or 3?
No, just,
Yeah, I am only proposing option 1 in its entirety.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, my biggest concern there is just the lack of preschool options. Appreciate 6 through 8. I'm really excited about that. Understand some of the other needs. But yeah, that's my biggest thing. That's it. Anyone else? Ms. Reinhardt?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I just want to state that my concerns are rooted in a desire to let the public know the decisions before us with adequate time and transparency for what we're doing. I have thought many times in the last, I'm in my 9th year as a board member, and I've thought a lot about the very big decisions that faced me the very first year that I was a board member when we did right sizing. The initial proposal was to close a number of buildings. We had town halls in every single building. It was a months-long, lengthy process, and the way in which we valued the feedback and incorporated that into our decision-making process and made it transparent to the entire community was something. As difficult as that process was, I came away with an appreciation for the very hard work that it takes to be transparent with the public, to respect their contributions and not want in any way to look like we are doing something without taking into account how it will affect their lives. In fact, one of the reasons why I ran for school board back in 2017 is because I felt like we needed more people on the board who would be making decisions about not just, kids in their neighborhood, hypothetical kids, but their own kids. And rooting that service in knowing the real lives that it touches. My big concern here is that, we got this information in an initial form on Tuesday, and it was the first time I had heard about the PK through 6 model. Until then, I had just heard about the PK through 8. And then we had a more in-depth presentation on Saturday. And this even has, this has most of the same information, but we have 3 options now. I cannot vote for something that has not been communicated effectively and have given the public and the community an opportunity to let us know their feelings and give us input. Even if it's the right thing to do, if we're not doing it transparently and with full communication, the only thing that will be remembered is how we did it, not what it is. And that's my frustration here. That's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, go ahead.
Okay. So the new so is limiting preschool to the 4. Is that a funding or is that a building or is that an amount of space in the building? Can the new funding source, can that be in more schools than just the 4?
Good evening, everyone. In order to answer that question, I just want to talk about a couple different things. This model, we would be able to service approximately about 658 preschool students. We do need space in many of our buildings, so it's twofold. One, it's funding, optimizing funding under IDEA in a new format to service more students with more staff, but it's also in to reduce costs. And the other piece is that we have buildings that need space. In order for us to do several of the other models, we would need to have classroom space in order to do that.
So really the answer is both.
Yes, it does.
Pretty much. And under the new model, 600, how many?
658 students.
And is that more than current?
We currently service 724.
Okay. And it's limited down to the 600 because of the funding source? Or
It's space capacity
that's space?
that we're projecting in those 4 locations plus
Okay.
itinerant services.
Okay, then I understand that. But thank you.
Ms. Ryan?
Ms. Spurlock, could I ask a follow-up question? I don't think I was clear on the answer. Can we switch to the PFCC funding with the preschool configuration we have now?
Yes.
Okay.
But we would not be able to put, because we would not be able to run the new configuration, we would not be able to place teachers, additional teachers in, because we're looking at placing students under IDEA B funding, increasing the number of people. Right now, we have about 800,000 in there. We could use that as a funding source for 1.5 under the new configuration. But if we don't do that configuration, we would not be able to put additional staff in there.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to go after Will.
You can go.
Some things that have been in my communication with parents as well as some of my colleagues. I really was hoping we were going to look at more than just option 1 tonight. I'm really more in favor of option 2. In my mind, and as a person who does program management as well as project management, we also have a levy that we're trying to pass in November. And in my thought process, I understand and understand from talking to some teachers, it takes time for teaching staff to get acclimated to new buildings. We have teachers who are currently in new buildings that are just now coming to the end of the school year, getting acclimated in their building and really feeling comfortable, with the potential to move those individuals come next school year for them to get acclimated again to another building, and then expect that some will have time after hours to work on a levy. And so I'm looking at doing what we do and doing it well, and not doing it haphazardly. And I'm definitely in favor of the need to move our pre-K students out of Kaiser and into a space because those trailers are at the end of their life. Definitely in favor of moving, Mount Street because of the cost of repairs needed for that particular building underneath the model that Mr. Smith presented, where every school would have their own wing at the new Jackson Center. Not in favor of K through 7. It works in some buildings. However, I know K through 8, it has been in Charity, and it's, we're told it's working at River's Edge, but I haven't seen any data on that just yet. And every school has a culture, and I think that's not being taken into consideration with some of these proposals, that every school has a culture, and what works at one won't necessarily work at another. And I really think it's something that we should stagger as opposed to jump to do in one setting. We have another school year coming up, 2027, 2028, where I think some of these other things could be broken up and done over time as opposed to in one lump, school year. So that's just where I personally stand with it and where I'm most comfortable. But I do appreciate all the work, all the options that were given to us by the superintendent. I'm disheartened that we're only voting on option 1 tonight, but more to come. Thank you.
Before Mr. Smith goes, to provide clarity, this board has not taken any action to put a levy out yet to do anything. Just want to say that for the record. All right.
Mr. Smith?
I'm sorry.
Come on, guys.
I'm good. Go ahead. I'm good.
No, I just have to provide context because I don't want us getting into waters of things that we have not made an actual decision on legally as a body.
So, in looking at all of this, my biggest concern is just hitting the ground running. Like doing it the right way. So like when I think of right, like to make sure it's done, we look at, it's been a climb trying to get things together with the alternative school, and that's a change that we had. This is looking at changing a lot of people at the same time and trying to figure out if we can make this work. And I think I brought up a lot of it even before when we talk about like just River's Edge. We haven't seen what that looks like in the future. We don't know what those high schoolers, what that looks like. And I think for me, I would have felt better if we look at this and we say, okay, these are K through 5 because we're creating these feeders. We're creating this, this move to be able to have sixth graders go into this new 6 through 8 configuration. Well, that means that at K through 5 now we remove preschool and we're removing sixth graders from the building. So that still leaves space if we're really wanting to be intentional, even if we do not have the same amount of classrooms for preschool. And you're then actually creating a true feeder model where somebody could go from preschool to 12th grade in the same neighborhood. So I think that's my biggest concern there. And then just making sure it's done right, like getting it done right. There's just a lot of moving pieces, and I appreciate the information. I do think moving into this new preschool kind of tuition space is also something I want to make sure that we're able to really keep our families, to really talk to them, let them know what that looks like, let them know what that process looks like, being able to walk our people through a real enrollment process when we're changing up how they first get their touch point to us. I look at, the other preschool options that are out there, and if we're paring this down, we really do not know how many children will still choose us. But then that still opens up the ability for parents to choose other school routes and then stay there for kindergarten as well. And so we don't know the full scope, and that's why I just want us to be wary of when we look at these things. Even when we put things out to the community, words matter. If we look just right here, it says option 1, district reconfiguration, option 2, do almost nothing. It's as if we're trying to say that only one of these options is the right way to do it. We're trying to say, because at first it said option 1, do something, the other one, do almost nothing, when we're acting like changing Mound Street to Jackson is almost nothing. We're acting as if changing Kaiser and moving them out and getting those sixth graders back acclimated to the building is almost nothing. That is not almost nothing. Changing anything in the district this size is something. And so the words we even put out to the community and to each other actually matter. We have to pay attention when we're doing those kind of things. It's like we're leading people to say, this is what we believe is the only right decision. Even though I'll give you 3 options, this is the only one I really want you to pick. And that is the way we shade things. We went from talking about funding at first for preschool and saying we have to get out of this funding to saying, hey, we can do this funding model any way we want to do it. We have to do better when we're talking to people. I did want to ask if it's possible, since we have Ms. Lightcap in here, is it possible, Dr. Morris, if I asked her a few questions or if she came up with Ms. Spurlock?
Absolutely.
Appreciate you coming out. So with this, could you explain to me, what does this look like for a parent coming in? Oh, I knew who she was. I knew who she was. For the audience, could you explain who our guest is?
Can I introduce myself?
Oh, yes, you
Okay.
can. You can.
I'm Robin Lightcap. I'm the executive director of Preschool Promise. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So you asked a question about what will it look like for families?
What does that look like for a family from going from how our current preschool model is, where it is you enroll, we put you in. Now, by going after PFCC dollars and having a tuition, what does that look like for a family coming in now?
Okay. So right now, obviously, you've been offering a free preschool for a long time. So the change would be requiring families to fill out additional paperwork. And honestly, this year, they have been filling it out for the ECE preschool program. And so that's why I have suggested that the good thing is you've already moved in that direction to have families fill out this paperwork. So why not take advantage of this other funding stream from the state? Because we need to pull down every dollar we can, because preschool is not funded appropriately in our country or our state. So all of us have to access every dollar that we can. So in a lot of ways, you've already made a big effort toward that change this current school year. So that's one positive, that it's not quite as drastic. But I also have to be totally transparent to say it is an administrative burden dealing with publicly funded childcare. It is not simple. It's not like you just flip a switch and it all works smoothly. However, we've already been talking with Karen and Eunice and with Chief Minor and Chief Spurlock, and we are ready to help you all as much as we possibly can and advise. We have people on our team that have been directors of childcare programs that rely on publicly funded childcare, so they have navigated those systems, so we can support you in that effort. It might take 2-3 years before we can realize the full revenue potential from that funding stream as we work through all the kinks. But I think in my opinion, it is wise to access every available dollar. And honestly, that's what the Preschool Promise financial model was built on, because we don't have enough money to pay for everyone to go to preschool. Our model was built on pulling down all available federal, state, local money first. So does that answer your question?
Yes, appreciate it. And no, I had to follow up with that. It is
Sure.
one more. So with the tuition, what does, or maybe even if that's for somebody on our team, what would that look like for a parent to try to apply to get the scholarship or a voucher to help them cover that cost?
Certainly. We have talked about that, and we've talked to Robin as well. So what happens is first they fill out the paperwork, and we know that if they already qualify, that they would qualify. So they can qualify in a couple different ways for PFCC, and it might be fully funded, PFCC, and then they may have a partial payment. And we've already talked to Preschool Promise that we could ask for tuition assistance for that family. Now, they allocate dollars every year. At this point in February, they still have money available for tuition assistance to families across Montgomery County. Last year, they did not hit their cap for tuition assistance. So families can apply at any time during the school year for that tuition assistance. And as a team, we talked about, so first, they can qualify for PFCC, tuition assistance through Preschool Promise. If something happens, and we're already in conversations about, they're talking about rearranging funds to supply more. We're also talking about what can we do for those families in scholarship if the funds run out, that we can offer scholarships as well. Because we don't want to deny preschool to any family. But first, we want to get as much money from the state that we can through our ECE dollars and through vouchers and through PFCC.
Appreciate that. That's all I had. Dr. Biwan.
Thank you. This is more a question for the district team. So you've all heard the concerns from the board, and I've gotten to see your work a lot more over the last couple months. And my question, and I'm asking each of you to come to the mic and just tell us in like a sentence or two, why do you support, because I know the superintendent didn't do this himself, because I hear you all talk about this stuff. Tell us as a board, because you are the individuals who work with this, you are the individuals who talk to the families, any surveys that have occurred, all work that has gone on this is from this team. Why are you in support of us? Or if you may not be in support. If you're not, I mean, I know you're not going to tell me that, but I can get into what you say. I get that. I'm going to listen to what you say. So I'm just asking you guys, just tell us as a body, why should we do this? You're up first. You're here.
I'm up first. So we actually did do a survey of families, and we have families that do want to continue with the district. When we look at the possible PK7, PK8s, we have families that choose to leave our district in 6th grade going into 7th grade. We have had families that said, if I could stay at this elementary school, I would want to stay in the district. We also have data from REM, River's Edge, that this past school year, we were able to retain 90% of the 6th to 7th graders, either at River's Edge or another Dayton Public School middle school choice. At Charity Adams, our number was 94% retention, whether it was at Charity Adams or another choice in the district. So those are just some of my reasons. We did the survey. We also, I went out and I spoke to several at parent meetings in the fall, and I had lines after presenting, I had lines of parents saying, thank you, you've heard us, we do want this option. So that's why we began the transition at several buildings.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms.
Ms.
Minor?
Minor.
It's like baseball to be followed by
Actually, I'm gonna
Ms.
tell you, it's gonna be Ms. Minor, then we're going to Chief Dooley, then Dr. Sheehy, then Ms. Goins,
Okay.
and Mr. Simmons.
Thank you. Good evening, board members and visiting audience.
You see Simmons' face?
You want to, hold on, sorry, Ms. Minor, I want to get you to, we want to hear you all. Mr. Simmons, you want to say?
I'll wait until.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, I guess the first thing I think about is all those families that lined up excited about an opportunity of a K-8 model. And I think about their faces and them wanting that, and many of the schools, as we said with the survey. I also think about my experience as a pre-K principal and the development that happened with the leadership skills that were developed amongst my 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, because the buildings, many of them were designed to be pre-K-8. And I can remember a survey happening. A team came in and did an audit of the middle school within my building. And my big concern was, are we getting them prepared for high school? And they did an analysis, and because of the way we structured the middle school, we even had a different schedule for them. They scored a 5 out of 5 on preparation. Some of our pre-K principals, if it were approved, were part of that team, like lead teachers, and had experienced it. So I know that would work, but I also appreciate the need to do 6, 7, 8, because as principals have said, by the time they get in there at 7th grade and leave and get to know them, they're already gone. So the fewer transitions, the better. I believe Dayton Public Schools is a comprehensive district that has a lot to offer, and we should offer our families these choices. I'm also looking forward to a stronger preschool center and increasing the quality of instruction, because there'll be more collaborative teams. Right now, with them all spread out, the preschool teachers have maybe 1 or 2 people to collaborate with, but at Rosa Parks, they'll have a whole team. So there's a lot of benefits to this, and we appreciate the opportunity.
Is Dr. Davis in the lineup or not?
Nah, she just making sure.
I'll say ditto, ditto, ditto. But I do want to say that I work directly with Joy in the student assignment office, and also with Judy Spurlock. And I've watched them struggle all year long in trying to find seats for pre-K 6 kids in the north, which is what prompted this idea of relocating PK, other reasons of course, but getting some classroom space freed up in our elementary schools. As Ms. Minor said, I'm a huge proponent of 6-8 for the relationship building. I think it's just a healthier model. The consolidation of the alternative programs into one building, I think, can only impact more kids in a more efficient way. We have an exemplary staff at Mound Street with a lot of experience doing this work. So I don't need to repeat what the others have said, but this all started because we were looking for seats for elementary students in the north. And then all of this other planning kind of evolved over time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stokes, you're gonna be the closer. It's like a couple people ahead of you.
Good evening. I must say ditto as well to our Associate Superintendent, the concepts that she presented. As a former elementary principal and middle school principal, I also appreciate the opportunity of having 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in one building for relationship building, high school preparedness, All of those things that Lisa Minor presented is what I'm in favor of. There's definitely benefits there, and I've seen it firsthand. I came up in my schooling through 6th, 7th, and 8th grade as a middle schooler. So I was exposed to that myself, so I do see the benefit of it. When it comes to Mound Street and the combining Mound Street, I'm in favor of that as well. I see the benefits there. You know, we have the issues with the building, the this, the that, maintenance, all of those types of things, but I definitely see those benefits in merging those two academies together. So, thank you.
Good evening. This option one, if we start with preschool, as was stated before, consolidating the resources into one space. We've really grown preschool because we've talked about kindergarten readiness so much. I want to give a huge shout out to our preschool team on the resources, the instruction, and we work really closely together to make sure that's happening, and consolidating these programs will only increase the rigor and instruction for our preschoolers to be kindergarten ready. We've talked about some of those literacy concerns. This is definitely going to help that. The K-5 and the feeders are, to me, very exciting because as a student of Dayton Public Schools, having those feeder patterns and building those relationships is very important. We knew what school we were going to go to. Our siblings went there. We experienced that with them, and we were really excited. So that feeder pattern, I think, brings a new level of excitement for our district. The K-6 model, those students are taking those preschoolers out because as a K-6 principal, I think someone mentioned it before, the preschool teams are kind of isolated. And we've been working to make those pre-K and K connections. But in those buildings, they feel a little isolated because their work is slightly different. So I think that's going to help that. The K-7 models, I was a pre-K-8 principal, and having those students so long and seeing their growth and development I just really appreciated that, seeing that and supporting them going into high school. The 6-8 model, I was in E.J. Brown today, and getting them prepared for high school and seeing some of the programming that they have right now is really exciting. Getting them prepared for that wall-to-wall academy is happening in those spaces as well. So I think that's just going to strengthen our time with them. And of course, the consolidation of our alternative programs, bringing all the resources together. There's been a lot of work done at the alternative school this year, tweaking things, figuring it out. And I think bringing that established Mound community there is just going to improve those services for all of our students. Having such a diverse community, I think it's important for us to have diverse options so we can all bring them together and increase our enrollment. Thank you.
So I want to thank you guys.
I think a key person is coming up because we're asking people to speak and we haven't talked to the people who do preschool here.
Good. They didn't move, so I was like, go ahead, come on.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your time. Preschool does not have a mascot, so I can't explain that the Wolverines are best. But I can say that I firmly believe that preschool is by far the most important grade levels in this district. It is our family's introduction to the district, and it is our students' beginning of their school career. And I feel an extreme amount of weight to make sure that we get it right so that when they go through the district, they feel like we have started and we love this place and we're never going to leave it. Part of my role, I feel a strong proponent of keeping as many classrooms available, as many teachers in their positions as available, because I want to serve our students and I want to see our kindergarten students come from our preschool. We know that the kids, when they get to kindergarten, they fare much better than those who don't go to our DBS preschools. That said, money, as Robin said, is a big problem, not just in Dayton, but in Ohio and across the country for childcare. With Title I funding, which has been no fault of preschools, that there's problems with that, and we realize that it's just not fair to spend all our Title I funds on preschool. So we realized that we had to come up with a different model. It presents a great opportunity because we, as of now, have not taken advantage of a variety of revenue streams. We have students who have IEPs, and there's some money that comes in because of that. We have the Early Childhood Grant, which we have taken over in the last 2 years. There's a little bit of money from that, but we don't have something steady that seems like it could cover our needs for staffing and beyond. So looking into PFCC, while it is an administrative headache, it does seem like it's a way to create more sustainability in our department because it would cover a lot of the funds that we're needing to give back to the schools. Another thing about this is that if we are no longer bound by Title I, we have this great opportunity to restructure the classrooms. We have what we call ECE right now, which is bound by Title I rules. The kids have to have certain requirements for age and otherwise. We have these ESIP classrooms. And we've been operating in a way that is not consistent with the state's guidance on least restrictive environments for students with IEPs. There's sort of this spectrum of options, and we think that we could fit into the second option down the line. Right now, we're falling in like the 5th or 6th down the line in this spectrum of options. And that would be having a model where we have all gen ed classrooms, and we have an IS, an intervention specialist, who splits his or her time between those classrooms. So there's just a lot of opportunity here in staffing and support. It would almost be like a half-time co-teaching model. So it's as chaotic as it is. I think there's just a lot of opportunities coming out of this chaos. We would be able to work more strongly with Preschool Promise, whose job it is for Montgomery County, well beyond Dayton, to support families to get into preschools, and we could take advantage of their tuition assistance, something we can't do right now because we don't charge it. And we talk about this idea of tuition, but that's something that we have to say that we're doing. But the vast majority of our families would come here, be able to take advantage of county assistance or Preschool Promise assistance, and it would still be free to them like it is now. We're saying tuition on paper, but there's going to be people or places supporting them to pay that tuition. So I just think there's a lot of good things that could come out of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Stokes?
You don't have to.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
If you think everything's been
They just
said.
threw your name out there,
Hey,
so.
somebody said your name, so we called you.
You said her name.
You said her name.
She literally said it first, and I was like, oh, well, let's not forget.
Ms. Stokes, you're gonna be last.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. But Ms. Goins is supposed to go before, since that's our community engagement over there.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's all right.
We was laughing at Mr. Simmons, that's why Ms. Goins ain't here.
I am a proponent of whatever is going to be best for our kids. At the end of the day, we just need to make sure that they're in a safe spot and that they're being educated to the best of our ability. And with that being said, the other piece is, we just need to make a decision one way or the other, because in order to start next year, we just need to make a decision. So whichever way you decide, I'll roll with it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Stokes. Thank you.
You'll be the
I
one
will
who's.
roll
Thank
with
you.
it. So, and again, I don't have a preference.
You'll be the one telling them
Yeah.
to fill out more paperwork, won't you?
We do this work together. As the ombudsman, my piece of being involved was keeping folks in the district, retention of folks in the district. We were losing kids to the STEM school if they couldn't get in certain schools. The intentionality of the work that they've done to redistribute some of the resources, some of the supports that are in certain schools. And I mean, our classrooms are full, and this has to happen today, I think. So that's why I support this effort.
Thank you, guys.
For retention of students in our district.
Okay. Thank you, guys. So I want to thank you all, because I think it's imperative to hear from the people who have to deal with the decisions that we make as a board. And I do want to point out, too, that this wasn't the original option that you guys brought us. We did collaborate as a board with you. You initially came with one preschool, and board members asked for something to also be on the east side, and now you added those on there. You also came with a 6-8 model, and you only had K-6. And the request was, it didn't make sense if the sixth graders weren't going to come anywhere, and you found schools to pair with those ones to add that on there. So I'm appreciative that like this is actual collaboration. It's not just your idea. It is not just our idea. It is us coming together to do an idea that seems the most logical and reasonable at this moment in time. And the beauty about the things that occurred here, that if this model does work, if this does pass today and it does work, and later down the line next year, you see that you are able to bring more preschools back based on the things that you have seen, that also can happen, because you also have to come back to us to add the 8th grade on to the K-7s. So we're in a testing period. Like we tested Charity Adams with 7th grade, 8th grade, it's on year 3. We are now with River's Edge on 7th grade. We're projected that they're going to be in the 8th grade there as well, and we will actually see what that happens. If some of these models do not work out over the next year, I'm sure you'll bring another recommendation back, because you guys are graded on this stuff. So at some point from this seat, it has to go, I have to allow you to do what you believe you can do, because at the end of the day, we're going to grade you on the success or failure on whatever happens out here. So I do appreciate the amount of time that has gone into this discussion and this piece of it. And I mean, I agree, at this point, either we're going to allow you to do what you believe you can do, or we're going to say, no, do something else, and still grade you either way on how those things turn out. Thank you.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes, thank you, and I'm glad to hear from DPS staff as well as those getting into this. I wanted to read the email of a parent that sent us their thoughts on the preschool changes so that we can have a full picture also from, and this is only one parent, again, I'm not sure if they received the survey that went out, but I'm gonna go ahead and read it. This is the parent of 3 children who attend Cleveland Elementary. Her youngest child is currently enrolled in preschool and expected to attend preschool again next year. I am writing to respectfully express my strong disagreement with the proposal to remove preschool from Cleveland Elementary. This decision would have a direct and negative impact on my daughter's educational experience and our family. One of the most meaningful parts of her school experience is being able to attend the same school as her older siblings. Each morning, she walks into the building encouraged, confident, and excited because she feels connected and included. Removing preschool from the elementary school would take away that sense of belonging and stability without clear cause. For a child so young, that consistency matters tremendously. Cleveland has successfully operated as a pre-K through 8 building in the past. Preschool students currently occupy only 2 classrooms. It is difficult to understand how such a small program is disruptive enough to warrant removal. If space or structure is a concern, I believe solutions can be found that preserve preschool within the elementary setting. If additional grades are being considered, adjustments can be made. They have been made before. I strongly believe Cleveland should remain an elementary school that includes preschool. Early education is foundational, and keeping our youngest learners integrated within the elementary environment strengthens families and builds continuity in education. For these reasons, I respectfully urge the board to vote against the proposal to remove preschool from Cleveland Elementary. I ask that you carefully consider the impact this decision will have on young children and the families who rely on this school community. Thank you for your time and consideration. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, did you have something else? Just that I really appreciate hearing from everyone, and I just want us to just always keep in mind that there's challenges. And when we talk about these things, we can't ignore the challenges of doing these things. Like, we had a K-8 district. There was a reason we switched it. We talk about the buildings being built for pre-K through 8, but we don't talk about the fact that we had Gorman at the time, and then Gorman got shut down. So many things happen, and when we go into these modes where we're talking about testing theories and trying things out, what we're really saying is we're trying things out on our children. And for me, that is why when we try things, we have to be intentional, because we can come back. You guys can come back in a year. You can come back in 2 years and say, hey, let's do something different. That child might not come back. That family might not come back. Like, That is what we're talking about when we talk about making any change in this district. I don't care if it's from changing a staff member. I don't care if it's changing bus routes or changing the time of day a school starts. We're talking about affecting families. And so the work is one thing. Moving families is a whole different thing. And that is why I think we have to be intentional with everything that we're doing. When we're talking about doing these things, we're saying we're looking at the investment into our children, but at the same time, we're hoping that our families will be okay with paring down the first touch of school for them to 3 places. And let alone not saying that we look at it and we say we have a space at River's Edge, which is one quadrant. You have one in another quadrant in Southeast and one in the Northwest, which is totally ignoring the fact that we have nothing then in the Southwest. Like we're making decisions and not stopping sometimes to go, hold on, let's see how we can carry this through. And like I said, we do preschool very well. If we want our kids to be kindergarten ready, we have to think of how do we put that investment in. Because whatever investment we do not put in at the beginning, we're gonna have another investment or we're gonna have to pay for that down the road. If it's that piece, if we're saying, okay, we are going to try to find PFCC money to do transportation here to go to other sites, then we're banking on that site doing just as good as we would. We're banking on other people being just as good as preschool as the people that do it right now in every elementary building. We're banking on people being able to do that. We're banking on families deciding, yes, I will get up in the morning and go from Southwest Dayton to Northwest Dayton because I'm going to do that. Or we're just hoping they don't go, you know what, I'm going to go to this charter school instead. Or I'm going to keep my kid at home. Or I'm going to have to do another thing to try to figure this out. And so whatever we do, I want us to work all the way together to make sure it works and really look at whatever challenges we're going to have. Even when it comes down to enrollment. Like, I have a question, and I don't know if we've looked at it yet. What does the feeder system look like when we're talking about this? If a student coming out of 5th grade and they're at Louise Troy, does the community know if they can only go to Wagaman, or can they go to any 6th grade across the district now? And then what does that look like when I'm at a K through 6 building and my kid gets to 5th grade and now I want to go to middle school? Or if I'm in a building where now I can be a kid and I'm in 5th grade, go to another building for 6th grade, and then go stop at a K through 7 building if I don't feel I'm ready for that. So we're saying one thing and we're trying to get the feeder, but what does it look like? And I know we can work on it. We can say, hey, tomorrow if this goes, we're going to start working on it. But when we work on plans, that's what we should work on before we even have the plan. You have to have contingency plans in place before you get to any decision where you're asking somebody to make a decision on their children. And that is the thing, like even if I'm a person who would love to be in the feeder system of this school to this school to this school, does it mean I have to go there? Do parents know what that looks like yet? So I think that is the part to make sure that we're looping them in, making sure that we're getting real clarity on what people's options are, because I don't want parents to feel like I think this is happening and so then I take my child somewhere and then that affects our bottom line. But that is it. Appreciate you.
I will say too, thank you, Dr. Bailey. We did put the request out today in our committee meeting to have exactly what Mr. Board Member Smith just asked for, the feeder pathway programs, and I believe we will have that in the near future because they did a great job of the last assignments we gave them. So,
Mr. Walker. I think this is the quietest I've ever sat through a 47-minute presentation, argument, debate, whatever. Dr. Lawrence, I will say I applaud your team for answering 7 pages worth of questions, shooting a video that is 9.5 minutes long. Ms. Goins, your team for surveying 750 parents, principals for sharing feedback and their support of having 6th grade in buildings to see students progress longer than just having them a year. Board members who showed up to committee meetings and actually heard these presentations. We talked about it even in student after school activities because my question was, we have a community partner that is operating out of Fairview and for their 21st Century program with E.J. Brown having a 21st century and how they've struggled having numbers in that program, but now looking to potentially add 6th grade to actually hit their cap in numbers to support families. So I'm appreciative of the entire work from Dr. Lawrence, your original submission to this board back in last August or September about this plan coming forward. So it's not something new that this board has not seen a communication on. Again, we've done the work in committee. We've talked to families have been surveyed. Building open houses have taken place. So I'm appreciative of the work. My questions are these. Dr. Jones, trailers at Kaiser, what is the timeline to remove them? How long will they still be on the property? Safety and security, does that change buildings now because they'll have middle school? And then the last one for you is transportation for these new configurations in line with Bell schedules of riding together.
Okay, first things first, the trailers over at Kaiser, we will remove those as soon as possible. They'll be gone hopefully before the beginning of next school year, sometime this summer. In terms of SRO configurations, we'll make sure that each building has an adequate number of staff members. I don't believe that we would need to add to our bottom line. However, we are in the process of examining that. And the third question was?
Transportation alignment with those schools in Bell schedules.
We're still working on that. I think we'll be fine in terms of like calibrating between the different tiers that we have. Everybody knows we have 3 tiers. And so we'll get with the transportation team to make sure that we're able to offer stellar services to our community.
Perfect. And then, thanks, Dr. Jones. My question for Dr. Lawrence.
Dr. Jones, do you mind if I add something to the second piece about SROs?
Certainly.
Dr. Jones has agreed to have a chiefs meeting where all the chiefs meet to go over security in general. So athletics, I have 3 chiefs who are in academics, so he's agreed through email saying, hey, I agree to a chiefs meeting to address your second question about SROs.
Yeah, that's to, if I could add a little more specificity.
Sure.
Thank you.
No problem.
You know, buildings often differ by culture. Some need more resources than others, or not more, but different. And so we're going to engage in examining cultural needs of each building and how many SROs each building will need to ensure a high-quality environment for our staff and students.
Perfect. Thank you. Dr. Lawrence, my questions for you are buildings that are on this plan for K through 7. Will we have the same presentation later similar to River's Edge before we vote to add 8th grade to those buildings?
Yes, absolutely. We'll be excited to do that. And I want to say that Ms. Reiner actually reached out to me and asked me, was I going to be ready to present for River's Edge? So I knew that that's an expectation of the board, and we'll be excited to do that, to talk about where we are in the process.
Perfect. And then 2 questions which kind of go together, but we'll see. Ms. Chief Spurlock, and I don't know, maybe Chief Dooley. So I'm looking at the buildings of Bellhaven, Valerie, Horseman, Cleveland. When looking at those buildings, what does that now state for Stivers enrollment? Because I know a lot of families go there. Would that now get more students in open enrollment spacing, or how would that piece work? And then the second part of that question would be, when looking at these buildings now that will be K through 7 or K through 8, how does that end up working with your master scheduling timeframe and things like that?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. First, I want to say that all those buildings we walk through as a team with the principal, with operations, with athletics, so we can make sure that we have a solid program for those buildings. Yes, so just like at Charity Adams and at River's Edge, we had students that did go in addition for Stivers and was able to go to Stivers. Some families chose to go to another DPS middle school. But we also had at Charity Adams last year 4 new students that joined that middle school, and at River's Edge, we had 10 new students that joined River's Edge in the 7th grade. 9 came within the district and 1 came from outside the district.
All right,
I know there's another piece to it.
Master schedule.
Master schedule, absolutely. We've already talked about master schedule, and I know that Chief Dooley has actually already met with the secondary counselors to begin the planning for master scheduling, and so that we can do that for the middle schools as well, and also talk to CTE programming, because we do want to have career tech options for our middle schoolers as well.
All right, that is all my questions. Mr. President, I would say I appreciate our agenda today, having this on here. However, that was not the intent of our special meeting for today. So I appreciate us allowing this 5th presentation that we have about the same topic. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are some things here that I think are really good ideas. I will preface by saying that. I'm in favor of moving to the PFCC funding. I think that that's really important to make sure that we are doing everything we can to staff preschool and make that available for students. I really like the K-8 model. I think that's also really good for students, and I'm in favor of consolidating and moving Mound Street. I think some clarification I'm looking for. I've heard for about a year that the K-8 model works really, really well. And that it's working out really well in the schools that we're phasing it into already, and that it is designed, and one of the effects of the K-8 model is that it keeps students in the district at a very, very high rate. If that's the case, then why are we not doing K-8 across the district? Why are we opening ourselves to potentially losing students if they're in the K-6 or if they're in the 6-8?
Ms. Ryan, I want to take that and say that the conversation around K-8, K-6, there's enough empirical research to make cases for either one. We had a speaker who came at the last meeting with empirical research around the importance of not having K-8s or having K-6s. And so what that means is enough researchers do enough research, and they have enough methodologies, and they can come up with reasons. What we know here is that what we're doing here in this limited space that we have happens to be working now. I don't know if it would work district-wide. We actually have talked about that. Like, what does that look like, the next phase or the next iteration of this? We just figured these were a lot of Band-Aids to rip off at one time, and we're ready. I'm not so sure we were ready to rip all the rest of ones off. We're going to look at the research after this year, and who knows, we may present that next year.
So research shows that both K-6 and K-8 are
Yes.
as successful for students?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can find research on either. We have lots of PhDs on this team. We'll look it up and send it. Either way.
Then, pardon me, Board Member Walker, then why are we making so many changes if it works with what we have already with K-6?
I said the research says that. We're making changes because we think that this is the most important place for right now.
Right, no, my question was though, if it looks like, from what we're seeing in Dayton, that K-8 keeps students with us, then why are we not doing that across the board for all of our elementary schools?
As I said, we'll see what happens in this space, and we might predict that next year. We may do that next year.
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence. I appreciate that.
No problem.
I do also want to push back on Board Member Walker. We have been, this has been something that's been mentioned a number of times, but my concern is that the communication to the public, the email that went out this morning with the video and the full video from Dr. Lawrence recapping what we talked about on Saturday was sent out this morning. That is not transparent communication that our public and our families deserve. I was not part of the committees that discussed this for a long time. I only heard about a model other than K-8 last Tuesday. And I had texts from parents this morning saying, what's this reconfiguration meeting today? Are you really voting on this today? That is my concern. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, go ahead. Ms. Reiner, you have been on the board for 9 years. For the last 2, you chair Parent, Family, and Community Engagement as a board committee. So you've had
a lot of opportunity to bring this up in your committee meetings that you have parents a part of. The superintendent sends us a weekly update, which I can clearly go in my email and find a report where we initially talked about this last year about changing buildings. So I just want us as a board to stop sitting here and acting like we did not get communication about what is going on. There has been a lot of communication about what it is that we are discussing. I invite individuals to actually come and sit in committee meetings and hear, first off, to see who shows up amongst board members, and then second, hear what is actually being discussed. We actually give opportunities for public members to be a part of those same committees. So there's opportunities to do work. And if I'm looking at this model of K through 6, some of these buildings, Edison, Roosevelt, Westwood, 3 buildings on the west side of Dayton that are heavy with group home kids who do not remain in the city of Dayton, who constantly leave this district and go somewhere else. So if we're talking about keeping families there, we have to talk about actually adding other services for those students, which, I'm sorry, we have not passed a levy to do any of that type of thing. However, we do know, and a lot of families that stay in this district is because of the actual family environment that they have in these other buildings. Edison, Roosevelt, Ruskin, Kaiser, all of those buildings have great educators. The issue is a lot of students that are coming into those buildings, the city has not done great things with allowing limited group homes in spaces. So a lot of our teachers are afraid of being attacked in those buildings. I'm not going to call them up here, but Dr. Davis could probably tell you, we have a teacher that resigns every single day or doesn't show up for work because of what they've been subject to at those same buildings. So yes, it would be nice to have it across the district. But again, as you've said, you've been here 9 years, so you've had time even then to do this same model. So can we not act like this is something that is new? We can vote. I mean,
So I'm just going to say this. Thank you guys for all of the hard work that you did. Thank you again. I don't like sounding like a Tyler Perry movie. Things being repeated over and over again, but I do want to thank you guys for the hard work. I do want to thank you for answering all the questions that was given to you from the board members. I thank you for the changes that you made with this plan, and I think that we should also vote. Anything else? That's it? All right. That's it. I just don't want to give people the wrong idea that we were not just here last Tuesday and multiple people said the presentation we got was the same thing that we had got in the committee. So when we talk about being in these committees, we're getting the same thing. So yes, we can say what we have been doing, but I don't want us to then try to fight each other and say that people should have known things that people in those committees said they hadn't even seen yet. So if we're going to vote, that is fine. What I don't want us to do is to go at each other about what people should and should not know. When today is the first day we even talked to anybody from preschool. No, preschool period here. So we have to stop that. That will not build what we need to do to move forward. Whatever moves forward, we have to move together, but we cannot move into actions as if people are wrong in their assumptions or wrong in their thoughts about what had been presented and where we are with this. Because a lot of these things that we talk about, things have been moving, there had been no real presentation about what we were going to do. We just had we were able to throw in 2 schools because the first presentation said do this. Other schools, we were talking about moving different things. So we have to move forward and say, yes, maybe we started too late on this, even if we move forward. We cannot act like we have been doing this and then some people have just been in the dark. We moved late on it. And so now we have to, everybody get together and do whatever we're going to have to do to make these things work. Because once we vote, everybody has to move forward whichever way the vote was. That's true. We have to move forward in that way. And the way we're walking into a vote, all that has to stop once we get past it, because at the end of the day, it's for these kids. And I'm ready to vote.
All right. Call for vote.
President Bailey,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
No.
Ms. Reinhardt,
No.
Mr. Walker,
yes.
Ms. Garrison,
No.
Congratulations, team. Do the work that needs to be done.
4 yeses, 3 noes.
Good work. Good educators.
Dr. Bailey, I have another resolution I would like to bring for a vote. That will conclude my
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Call for any questions, concerns?
Who did?
I motion, Dr. Goodwine second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Questions, concerns? All right, call for vote.
Okay. President Bailey,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Abstain.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Garrison.
Yes.
6 yeses, 1 abstain.
All right. Pursuant to Section 121.22G2 of the Ohio Revised Code, I move that this board go into executive session. This meeting is being held to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, and/or compensation of a public employee.
Second.
Roll call.
President Bailey,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Garrison.
Yes.
7 yeses.
After the tragedy, the families of the lost astronauts came together and wanted to do something in memorial for their families.
Well, nobody believed I could do it. They said, this has never been done. You're just a teacher, you know, and I said, watch me. Once we had built the first center, President Bush said, we need more of these centers.
It just immediately was clear to me that Dayton, Ohio, birthplace of aviation, had to have a center. And along I came.
When students come to the center, they take on the role of mission controllers and astronauts and engineers.
It's taking you out of your everyday environment and putting you in the environment of flight.
A number of educators have come back and said that they were inspired to be a teacher. And it began with Krista McAuliffe, but then it continued when they went to a Challenger Learning Center.
The community response was overwhelmingly positive.
Teachers from around the Miami Valley are preparing for the mission of a lifetime.
Imagine as a student being able to command your very own space lab.
We have main engine start.
Dreams have a way of manifesting themselves.
3.
Ideas have a way of coming into this world.
2.
We created all these grand things that you can find at a Challenger Center now. And right here in Dayton,
1
is a prime example of what can be done.
Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Control. Roger, roll, Challenger.